Re perile bakokwane. Greetings from Musoni. Ntukulu wa Wangoni ne BaNTU. Today I want us to talk about BaNTU law. And these will be based on this text right here, Indaba My Children, African Folklore by the Grandmaster Vusamazulu Credo Mutwa. In the text, Mkulu Credo Mutwa Vusamazulu says, here follow some of the high laws of the BaNTU, common among all the BaNTU races in southern, central, and East Africa. That's for those who claim that there is no commonality between Africans. But anyway, that's a subject for another day. So the first law that he states in the text is the high law of life. It says, "Men, know that your life is not your own. You live merely to link your ancestors with your descendants. Your duty is to beget children even while you keep the spirits of your ancestors alive through regular sacrifices. When your ancestors command you to die, do so with no regrets." As you can see, this law is a real serious one. It's a higher calling. It calls for self-sacrifice, which is one of the things that we have lost in our community and is the cause of the downfall of the African community worldwide, because people are driven by their appetites, their carnal desires, if I may put it that way, instead of a higher desire, higher calling. And in the next law is the high law of behavior towards parents. It says, "Man, know that of your two parents, your mother ranks higher than your father. In quarrels between your parents, you must come to the aid of your mother. Be she right or wrong, you may strike your father, but never draw his blood. You may never strike your mother, and even if you do so accidentally, you must lose your right hand." I know some black feminists like that one. And the next law is the high law of self-preservation. "Men, know the laws of the gods and the laws of your ancestors and their ancestors before them. If one of another race killed a member of your race, tribe, or family, do not rest until you or a descendant of yours have killed a member of his race, tribe, or family." Of course, the world we live in is filled with all kinds of crime and human trafficking and violence against women and children. But we find that the biggest victims in this whole ordeal that's happening in the world, which is basically affecting people of all races, but the main targets when a criminal, because criminals are cowards and they always look for an easier target. So with that being said, African people then usually become the target because of this reason, that they can get away with the crime, because we do not obey the laws of our ancestors. That puts an obligation on us to exercise justice. Now, where are all the people who are saying ubuNTU is weakness and ubuNTU is the reason why we were colonized? Let me get to that at the end. The high law of discriminate punishment. For every offense, there must be a fixed punishment. No offender shall be punished in a way different from that laid down for the particular crime. In other words, The BaNTU law is just. It has no face. Unlike the hypocritical Western law, as we see in the United States, where they copy the scales of Ma'at that you see on the left. You can see the balance of the scale where the heart was weighed against the feather was an ancient BaNTU justice system in the land of Kemet. Copied on the right, you have a white woman blindfolded. Obviously, the white woman is copied from goddess Ma'at of ancient Kemet. She's blindfolded, claiming blind justice and the scales in balance. But we know that is not the case. That is not their practice, because in the same United States who display this image, you have a people of a certain skin color, aka African Americans, serving much larger or much greater sentences for the same crimes committed by their European counterparts. So we can see here that Mkhulu Vusamazulu is emphasizing the importance of justice, that the BaNTU law within itself requires that there be justice. It needs to be unbiased. The other BaNTU law that he mentions is relations during menstrual and breastfeeding. A man must have no relations with his wife during her periods of menstruation or during the entire period while she breastfeeds a baby. So in the text, I know that menstrual part 1 is probably the easy one, but then the breastfeeding part, I mean, some of us were breastfed for about 2 years. And of course, in the text, he goes on to explain why it was part of the reason of isitimbu. And then we have the high law of false accusations against virgins. A man must never accuse a virgin of not being a virgin. Such a man must leave the tribe and his cattle and wives, and must be shared amongst other men of the village. So you can see the high standard from which we had fallen. And part of these laws, he explains in the text some of the punishments or the sentences that would be served against breaking a particular crime. So there was a standard. It was not an emotional decision on the part of the chief or the king that this person is going to get this punishment. It was a standardized sentence that would be issued for a particular offense. A lot of these offenses were very harsh, but I'm just going to use one, a lighter one, just for, because I know people ain't ready for this, but yeah, I found this one quite interesting. It relates to the defamation of character. Before I go into the one of defamation of character, in the text he explains the process of someone being judged, that the state executioner may lay the sentence, but the person that executes the punishment is usually the victim of the violation. And it says BaNTU execution is not merely punishment, it is a sacrifice to appease the ancestral spirits of the family who cry out for vengeance. And so it says here, if someone insults you in public and calls you impotent, you do not respond to him, you go to the authorities, and then you challenge him to appear before the authorities to present his evidence. And when he fails to do that, 4 of the cattle go to the chief, which he will be sentenced, and 2 of the complainants, basically the fine. So you can see clearly here that contrary to the popular belief that we lost our sovereignty due to ubuNTU, the truth is quite the opposite. We lost our sovereignty because we disobeyed the laws of our ancestors. Peace and African power.